Another podcast of the Boy at the Back of the Class. This is part 5, and make sure you've read the last 7 chapters before you listen to this podcast. Here, I'm with Josh and myself, Dante.
Hi everyone. Okay, so again we've got the same sort of format. I'm going to ask Dante some questions, then he's going to ask me some questions about it, and we'll say our views and whether similar stuff has happened to us. So I'm going to ask you first, Dante. Okay, so the book talks a lot about people being different to other people. So do you think it's a good or bad thing to be different from other people?
I think it's good to be different from other people, because if everyone was the same, there'd be, like, when I'm at school, if everyone was as good as each other at the same thing, then there's no point learning, because it would be better if you're different, because if people are better at that thing and they're not, and then the other people are better and not as good, it will be good for those other people that can learn, and the people that know can learn again, so they won't, so in case they've forgotten, and it would just be a muddle, because the toilets would just be like rams.
Yeah.
If we're all the same.
Yeah, so I think it's good to be different. I think it'd be quite a boring place, wouldn't it? If everybody just knew the same stuff, if everybody was equally good at everything, it'd just be boring. It's nice to talk and see people who are different. So I think that's a great thing, and I think that's something that's really good about the country that we live in, that we have a lot of diversity. We have loads of people from different backgrounds. So yeah. Second question for you, Dante. There is some negative reaction from people and the media about the greatest plan in the world. Why do you think this is?
Because they think, because they're not refugees, it doesn't matter to them, because they think they're safe and refugees don't affect us. But actually, they're the reason the NHS is here, the reason why there's something called a circle and not a square. And Mo Farah was a refugee, Albert Einstein was a refugee, and they're both a big part of the world. So, and then when they come through the gates, the border gates, and they go to the Home Office or something, and they get a job, they've done the job, they built something or made something, and they say, actually, we don't need you anymore because it's all built. You can go back to your country that's all in war. So they're just using them to do it, and because they've been taken over by English people, then they think that they're English. English people have attacked them, so they think they're English, when actually they're from a different country, so you can't make them. Then if they're different, that's a good thing.
So there, Dante, I think you're talking about Windrush. This is where people were invited over after World War II to rebuild Britain. Recently in the news, their paperwork had been lost. So people were getting unfairly deported, even though they were British citizens and had been invited over here to help rebuild Britain. Yeah, so I think the negative reaction is because people are scared of things that are different, whether that's somebody's race or their religion or culture. I think people get scared of stuff that's different. And I think it's massively important for people who are not scared to let people know that they don't need to be scared of things that are different, and they need to embrace the diversity. And like we said in the previous question, it's what's made sort of the UK a really great place to live, because of all this diversity and like different views on stuff. So they talk about the Home Office. What do you know about the Home Office? What do you think they do there?
I'm pretty sure they're people that tells them what job they can have and what they need to do in this country in case it's a bit different. Like in America, it's different football. It's seems a bit like rugby there, and they call football soccer.
Yeah.
So I think they're trying to tell them that in case there's different rules.
Yeah. So just to let you know, so the Home Office is a department in the government, and they work with immigration, like you were just saying, but they also work with security, and they sort of create some of the laws that are in this country as well. So they will have worked with people who who are coming in and letting them know where they're going to be living and maybe sort of what jobs that they can apply for and stuff like that. So yeah, you were right. Do you want to ask me my questions now, Dante?
Yeah. Until Mrs. Duncan says a very happy birthday, Alexa, in the last chapter, you don't know the narrator's name or gender. Were you surprised when you found out she was a girl?
So I had my suspicions that she was a girl, but I did fall into the trap of going for some sort of stereotypes. So definitely was thinking a little bit about stationery, her love for stationery at the beginning of the term. As a boy, I didn't have that. So I was thinking that was very stereotypical, a girl.
Mm-hmm.
But I also might have cheated a little bit because I listened to the book through Audible, and it is a female who reads the story. So that also changed my perspective to think, the narrator must be a girl because they've got somebody who's a girl narrating. So that's why I had those opinions. So it wasn't a massive surprise, but I thought it was really interesting that it was until the end that you definitely knew if the narrator was a boy or a girl or what her name was.
Mm-hmm. And she did describe in her group somewhere that she says there was 2 girls and 2 boys, and she tells us about Josie, who's a girl, Michael and Tom, who are boys, and that must mean there's only one more girl, so that must mean that's her.
Okay. I didn't pick up when I read that, so that was interesting that you noticed that.
What happens when you are granted permanent asylum?
Yeah, so make sure you have read the chapters before you listen to this, because we find out Ahmet's parents do get permanent asylum here. So I wanted to talk about what that was. So that means that the government have allowed them to stay forever. So sometimes you can get temporary asylum, which means you can live in the country for maybe a few months or a few years. But permanent asylum means that you can stay forever.
Unless you want to move.
Yeah, of course.
What have you learned from Alexa's best ever adventure?
So I think the big thing from this is no matter how big the challenge is, you can make a difference. If you think of the story, especially as an adult, and you look and you think a 9-year-old is going to try and make sure that one of her friends' parents get found and they're in different countries across the world, how they would go about to do that, I'd have been like, that's nearly an impossible task to do. But they've gone out and they've done a very big adventure to try and make this happen. And obviously, in the end, it comes off, and Ahmet's parents are found, and obviously they get permanent asylum in the UK. So it's no matter how big the challenge is, you can make a difference.
And I have one last question for you.
Oh, yeah, go on.
How do you think me and you are different?
Oh, so I thought this the other day about. I haven't got the questions, but we did a podcast the other day on how I might be a little bit nervous or scared or a little bit anxious about new things or new environments or new places, where you quite embrace that. You love going off to see new things. I think also I talked about standing in front of a class and sort of feeling the pressure of everybody's eyes. But I've heard that you really embrace that if you're in school and you've got to talk out in assembly or anything like that. I don't know if that's true.
Not really afraid.
Yeah. So I think that's where we are a bit different. What do you think?
Look, I have about 2 reasons. You're older than me,
Yeah.
and we both like different things. Like you like football, and
Yeah.
I like skate parks, and I try football. I don't know if you've ever tried skate parks.
Not really. No, I haven't. I've never gone on a skate park, I don't think. Probably
No.
something I need to do. But we're gonna end the podcast there. There is one last podcast where we're going to review the whole book, and we're going to talk a little bit about what the author has wrote at the back of the book, which is quite exciting. It's quite interesting as well to have a little talk about it. So we're going to do that as a separate podcast. So thank you for listening for today. So I'm going to say bye from me.
Bye, everybody. Hope you enjoyed this podcast.